Today, we're going under the hood. We're going to dissect the blueprint for the world's largest democracy, the Indian Constitution. But we're not going to treat it like some dusty old legal text. Nope, we're going to look at it as the very anatomy of a nation. We'll explore its DNA, its skeleton, and its beating heart. So, let's dive right in.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, let's start with the number, 448. That's how many articles it's grown to have over the years. That makes it by far the longest, most detailed written constitution on the entire planet. It's a true beast of a document.
And that massive scale, well, it brings up a pretty mind-boggling question, right? How on earth do you write a single rulebook for a population so huge and unbelievably diverse? Well, the people who framed it, they approached it like they were building a living thing. Something with a skeleton, a nervous system, and a soul.
So here's our game plan for this journey. We'll start with its basic DNA, then look at its unique structural frame. After that, we'll check out the engine of government, feel its beating heart, and finally, we'll meet its ultimate protector.
Okay, first up, a blueprint for democracy. Now, I want you to think of this part as the Constitution's fundamental genetic code. This is the DNA that basically carries all the instructions for everything else that comes after.
What's so fascinating is that this constitutional DNA, it wasn't just invented out of thin air. The framers were brilliant curators. They looked at more than 60 constitutions from all over the world and cherry-picked the best ideas. Things like the parliamentary system from Britain, the idea of fundamental rights from the US, and of course those famous ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity from France. They mixed it all together to create something totally new and uniquely Indian.
All right, next, let's see how that unique DNA actually builds the nation's frame. If those principles are the genetic code, then the structure of the government, that's the skeleton of the state. And a skeleton needs to be strong enough to hold everything together, but also flexible enough to move and adapt. And this leads us to a term you really don't hear every day, quasi-federal. See, India isn't a pure federation like, say, the United States, but it's not a completely centralized state either. It's this deliberate, unique blend of both. It's a federal system, sure, but with a very, very strong lean towards the central government.
And this just shows that balancing act perfectly. On one side, you've got your classic federal features, like sharing power between the center and the states. But then, look at the other side. You've got these really powerful unitary or centralizing features, like a single citizenship for the whole country and one unified court system. It's all designed to make sure the center holds strong. So, why does any of this matter? Well, the bottom line is this wasn't an accident. This whole quasi-federal structure was a very conscious choice. It was specifically engineered to hold together a country with just immense diversity while making sure that the unity of the nation always came first.
Okay, moving on, let's look at the engine of government. If the structure is the skeleton, this is the nation's nervous system. It's that complex network that takes the will of the people and turns it into actual government action.
India went with the British Westminster model, and the way power flows is actually pretty elegant. It's a simple two-step. First, we, the citizens, vote for our representatives, who make up the legislature, also known as parliament. Then, whichever party gets the majority in parliament gets to form the executive, which is the government itself. It creates this really clear chain of accountability, right from the government all the way back to you, the voter.
Now, this system also creates two very different leadership roles. You have the president, who is the head of state. Think of them as the symbolic head, the de jure or legal head. But the person with the real day-to-day executive power, the de facto power, is the prime minister, who is the head of government. It's a smart way to separate the symbol of the nation from the politics of running it.
And now we get to what I think is the real soul of the document. The Constitution's beating heart. These are the parts that breathe life into the whole thing. The sections that are all about the rights, the protections, and the hopes of every single citizen.
And right here is where we find a truly brilliant idea. This two-pronged approach to protecting people. On the one hand, you've got fundamental rights. These are the things the state must do. They are legally enforceable, or justiciable, which means you can literally take the government to court if they violate them. But then you have the directive principles. These are what the state should do. They're more like moral guidelines, a vision for a better society. But you can't sue the government for not following them.
But hey, just because you can't sue over them doesn't mean they're not important. Not at all. The Constitution itself says these principles are fundamental in the governments of the country.
You can think of them as the nation's moral compass, the direction every government is supposed to be steering towards. And we absolutely cannot forget one of the most incredible things baked into this Constitution from day one: universal adult franchise. I mean, think about it. Back in 1950, when a lot of so-called established democracies still had all sorts of restrictions on voting, the Indian Constitution just flat out gave every single citizen over 18 the right to vote. That's real political equality, right from the get-go.
So that brings us to our final stop on this tour, the ultimate guardian. If the Constitution is the body, then the independent judiciary, well, that's the conscious brain. Its whole job is to protect the entire system and make sure every other part is doing what it's supposed to do. And to do its job, it is given some serious power. The whole court system is integrated, with the Supreme Court sitting right at the very top. It's designed to be independent, so judges are protected from political meddling. It's the ultimate guarantor of all those fundamental rights we just talked about, and it gets the final say on what the Constitution actually means.
And the most critical power of all is something called judicial review. What does that mean? It means the Supreme Court can look at any law passed by Parliament or any action by the government, and if it decides that law or action violates the Constitution, it can strike it down. Period. It's the ultimate check and balance, the final line of defense.
So when you put all these pieces together, the DNA, the skeleton, the nervous system, the heart, the brain, you start to see that the Indian Constitution is so much more than just a rule book from 1950. It's a dynamic, breathing, living document that's designed to be the framework for the hopes and dreams of over 1 billion people.
So, to quickly recap our little anatomy lesson, we saw its incredibly complex DNA, a rich blend of ideas from all over the world. We examine its unique quasi-federal skeleton, built to balance unity with diversity. We understood its nervous system, an accountable government. We felt its beating heart, full of rights and guiding principles. And we met its guardian brain, a powerful and independent judiciary. Which really leaves us with one final big thought. This was a blueprint designed in the middle of the 20th century, but it's for a nation that's set to be a global powerhouse in the middle of the 21st. So, as this living document continues to breathe and evolve, the biggest question of all is, what does its next chapter hold?